Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvakracharya Statara Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vintagi Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Pramanandi. So today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, Texts 14, 15 and 16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Divyopakaranopetam Divyayopakaranopetam Savakala Sakavaham Patikabi Patakabi Vichitrabi Alankritam Divyopakaranopetam Savakala Sakavaram Patikabi Patakabi Vichitrabi Alankritam Divyopakaranopetam Divyopakaranopetam Savakala Sakavaham Patikabi Patakabi Vichitrabi Alankritam Divyopakaranopetam Savakala Sakavaham Patikabi Patakabi Vichitrabi Alankritam. Ladies? Okay, there's Divyopakaranopetam Savakala Sakavaham Patikabi Patakabi Vichitrabi Alankritam. So there's another verse that goes with this one, text 15. Shrakbi Vichitra Malyabi Manjushinjat Sad Angribi Dukula Shoma Kosheya Nana Vastra Virajitam Divya, wonderful. Upakarana, with paraphernalia. Upetam, equipped. Savakala, in all seasons. Sukha avaham, bringing happiness. Patikabi, with festoons. Patakabi, with flags. Vichitrabi, of various colors and fabrics. Alankritam, decorated. Shakbi, with wreaths. Vichitra Malyabi, with charming flowers. Manju, sweet. Sinjat, humming. Sat Angribi, with bees. Dukala, fine cloth. Shoma, linen. Koshaya, of silk cloth. Nana, various. Vastrai, with tapestries. Virajitam, embellished. Translation. The castle was fully equipped with all necessary paraphernalia. It was pleasing in all seasons. It was decorated all around with flags, festoons, and artistic work of variegated colors. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted sweet humming bees, with tapestries of linen, silk, and various other fabrics. Please repeat. The castle was fully equipped. With all necessary paraphernalia. And it was pleasing in all seasons. It was decorated all around with flags, festoons, and artistic work of variegated colors. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted sweetly humming bees, and with tapestries of linen, silk, and various other fabrics. So there's no purport, so we go on to text 16. Aparaparya vinasta nikalyesha pritak pritak shipte kashi pubi kantam payanka vyajana sanaya. The palace looked charming with beds, couches, fans, and seats, all separately arranged in 7 stories. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is understood from this verse that the castle had many stories. The word apara, apari, vinyasta indicates that skyscrapers are not newly invented. Even in those days, millions of years ago, the idea of building many-storied houses was current. They contained not merely 1 or 2 rooms, but many different apartments, and each was completely decorated with cushions, bedsteads, sitting places, and carpets. A translation again. The castle was fully equipped with all necessary paraphernalia, and it was pleasing in all seasons. It was decorated all around with flags, festoons, and artistic work of variegated colors. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted sweetly humming bees, and with tapestries of linen, silk, and various other fabrics. The palace looked charming with beds, couches, fans, and seats, all separately arranged in 7 stories. Om Jnana Timanandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Anmalatamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we're going to start off with a quick recap of what's been going on so far in our readings on the subject matter of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. So we can go back to where Lord Brahma had commanded Kardama Muni to beget children. So Kardama Muni, he engaged in meditation for 10,000 years. And in these 10,000 years, he meditated in trance and in devotional service. And he achieved perfection through this trance. So we can tell from this that this pastime actually takes place in Satya Yuga, where the lifespan was 100,000 years. In this age of Kali, it's not possible to engage in such long meditation. And we can tell that Kardama Muni, he reached his perfection because the Lord appeared to him. Lord Vishnu came before him, standing on Garuda, and Kardama Muni, he paid his obeisances and he offered glorification to the Lord. And then he revealed his heart and said, "My dear Lord, you know, I would really like to get married to a woman of a similar disposition to myself." And the Lord, being the super soul in everyone's heart, he knew the desires of Kardama Muni, and he said, "I've already made arrangements." And so Swayambhu Vimanu will come to see you very soon. He will come with his wife and daughter, and his daughter, she is a suitable match for you. And the Lord also told Govardhana Muni that you will have 9 daughters, and also I will take birth as your son. And we will see in the future that the Lord will take birth as Govardhana Muni, as a son of Govardhana Muni and Devahuti. So then, as the Lord had predicted, very soon after, Swayambhuva Manu came with his wife. Swayambhuva Manu is the emperor of the universe, and his wife is Satarupa, and they came with their daughter Devahuti. And so Swayambhuva Manu, he requested Govardhana Muni to please accept Devahuti as his wife, which Govardhana Muni did. And then Govardhana Muni and Devahuti, they lived in the forest. And Devahuti, she comes from the background where she's a princess. She's used to living in palaces with maidservants. But then she is now in the forest, and there's no maidservants. There's not even anything good to eat. There's just fruits and roots in the forest. And so Devahuti, she serves her husband very well. And in her service, she forgets about her bodily demands, and it's mentioned how she becomes very lean and thin. Her clothes become soiled, her hair becomes matted, but still she still continues to serve her husband. So then Govardhana Muni, he becomes very compassionate to his wife, and he knows her desire to have children. So to fulfill this desire, he creates an aerial mansion or a flying castle in the sky, which is able to go anywhere within the universe. So now we're on today's verses, which are describing how the castle was decorated according to the Kama Shastra. So Govardhana Muni, he certainly knew the art of the Kama Shastra, and the portion of the Vedas which describes arrangements for sexual life and getting into the proper state of consciousness for begetting children. So therefore, Devahuti asked him to prepare everything to meet this end of having children and to do whatever's conducive. So then, this is why Govardhana Muni, he made this mystic castle. So for a great yogi like Govardhana Muni, there are 8 great mystic perfections that they can achieve. It can be either to a greater or a lesser degree. Krishna is the source of all mystic powers. Therefore, one who is strongly connected with Krishna in any of his aspects may start exhibiting such powers, just like a bar of metal is contact with fire becomes hot and can burn. But the problem with mystic powers is that it can also make a person proud and fall down. And yogis are generally conditioned souls, and they are anxious to prove themselves. So these 8 mystic perfections are as follows. I got these from a devotee called Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu. I saw his video on YouTube, and he's a South American devotee, a very learned devotee, and he explained these 8 mystic siddhis very, very nicely. So the first one is called Anima Siddhi. And this siddhi, it allows one to become very small and thus enter into hidden or closed spaces everywhere, even inside stone. So just like Paramatma can enter everywhere, so a yogi in possession of this power can also enter everywhere. 2 is Lagima Siddhi. So using this perfection, one can become very light and thus fly to distant places without difficulty. The perfection of this siddhi is to be able to fly in space using the rays of the sun, which work like cosmic roads, connecting all different parts of the universe. By this process, a yogi can go from his planet to the sun, and from there reach any other part of the universe. Number 3 is called Mahima Siddhi. This perfection allows the yogi to increase his size and physical power. This mystic power is often used by demons while fighting their opponents. For example, Hiranyaksha was so powerful that he could assume a form that was many times bigger than our planet to fight Lord Varahadev. This is an example of having this mystic power in a very high degree. Number 4 is called prapti-siddhi, or acquisition. By this perfection, a yogi can bend space and reality and reach any distant object. So using this power, a yogi can touch or grab objects from different places or even distant planets. By bending space and then reaching them by just extending his hand, he can grab a fruit from a tree thousands of kilometers away or even touch the moon with his finger. By using this perfection, one can also enter into the senses of others through the predominating deities of the senses, and thus enjoy anything they enjoy, hear what they talk, understand what they are thinking, so he can also enter their bodies using this prapti-siddhi. Number 5 is called isittva-siddhi. By this potency, a yogi can manipulate the sub-potencies of Maya and thus create any kind of wonderful material object. At the highest level, this perfection can be used to even create planets or annihilate them at will. Krishna is the supreme controller, and by mastering his yogic perfection, one becomes a small controller within this universe. Number 6 is called Vasittva-siddhi. By this power, one can interfere with another's free will and thus bring another under his control. Just like Maya can seduce almost everyone inside this material world, by using this siddhi, a yogi can similarly do this. Srila Prabhupada explains that Vasittva works like a type of hypnotism that is almost irresistible. Sometimes people who achieve a small degree of this power become fashionable gurus or speakers who can bring masses of people under their control and thus exploit them for their purposes. This, however, does not have any purpose in spreading Krishna consciousness, because devotional service implies that one deciding to serve Krishna under his own free will. By using Vasittva, one can also conversely keep himself above the control of the 3 modes of material nature. Number 7 is called Prakamya-siddhi. By this perfection, one can satisfy any desire he or she has under the scope of the laws of nature. So he can enjoy any kind of material object, acquire any kind of material knowledge, and this power of achieving desirable things reaches its highest level in the siddhi called Kama Vasayata. And this is the final one, number 8. Kama Vasayata Siddhi. The difference between Prakamya, the previous level, and Kama Vasayata is that Prakamya allows one to obtain things which are within the scope of the physical laws, whereas Kama Vasayata allows one to contradict nature and to do things that are ordinarily impossible. Subari Muni, for example, was able to change the shape of his body to become a young, handsome man, and then expand himself into 8 forms to simultaneously marry all the 8 daughters of King Mandhata. Another yogi used this siddhi to create a tree that produced men instead of coconuts. So Kadama Muni, being a yogi as well as a great devotee, used his mystic powers to create this flying castle in which he could fly all over the universe by his will. So when the non-devotees hear of these descriptions of the Shastras, they put it all down to mythology or made-up stories. But why is it so hard to believe? Because nowadays they can fly in the sky as well. They have their aeroplanes, but they're still flying in the sky. They can go from one part of the planet to the other. They can throw satellites into space. They can split the atom. And now we see they have AI, which they can create robots to be like humans. And the other day I read an article that in China they're developing an AI hospital where they won't be using real doctors, but they would be using AI technology. And because what they're saying is a doctor can maybe treat 100 patients within a week, but through AI technology, they can treat 1,000 patients within a few days. And And also I was reading an article where they're saying they're paying the scientists something like $66 million where they want them to block out the sun. I mean, they're creating all these demoniac activities which are actually going to be very detrimental for this planet. And also they can travel by phenomenal speeds. I remember 20 years ago when I lived in Cairns, there was a Singaporean jet fighter plane. It was one of their new ones. It landed in the Cairns airport, and it stayed overnight to refuel. And the next morning, I was going for a walk on the Esplanade, and this superjet fighter, it flew out of the airport and it came above the Esplanade, and then it turned towards the ocean, and then it started revving its engines. It was really, really loud. And then within a couple of seconds after it started flying, you couldn't see it again. The speed of that jet fighter was so phenomenal that within a couple of seconds it disappeared. So, they can create all these wonderful things. And if you go back 100 or 200 years ago and you told them these things would be going on today, they would think you're crazy, and they'd probably put you in a mental hospital. But yogis, they're still existing today, and you can see them perform mystic feats to a lesser degree at places like Kumbh Mela. And this Kumbh Mela is held in Allahabad every 12 years, and that's where the three sacred rivers of the Ganga, Yamuna, and the Saraswati they meet, and it's called the Triveni. And there's an Agh Kumbh Mela, which is held halfway through the 12 years, and that's one Srila Prabhupada attended with his group of disciples. So I just want to read a page from this book by Guru Das called Chasing Rhinos with the Swami, a very nice book. Shamasundar. Oh, sorry. It's actually there's 3 volumes, and very wonderful. So it says, as we near the river, yogis appear lining the path and doing tricks. What, Malati, did you see that? There's a boy man lying on a wooden plank with 12-foot-long spikes penetrating his torso. His eyes focused on eternity. The wounds are long healed, must be something he's done most of his life. There's more of them. It's a gathering of men on spikes. Their handlers stare at us, and we stare back at them, trying to unravel in our minds this testament to sacrifice and the power that's supposed to come from it. Is it worth it? Do these guys get anything more than a meager living for the incredible pain they've undergone? This yogi stuff is no longer a fairy tale, son. We see another yogi buried in the sand with only an arm showing, their fingernails a foot long and curling around their wrists. They are levitators, a row of cross-legged men seated above the ground. One guy is almost 2 feet up. Wait a minute. We glance at Prabhupada. He marches past looking the other way like, come on lads, let's go to the beach. Kaushalya. Prabhupada told us, you must be very careful because there are very powerful yogis here and that many of them have very powerful siddhis, just like they have the power to mystically move between places. He said, you must be very respectful, very careful. Now we are really seeing ancient Vedic India, a land of magic yogis and tapasya, voluntary austerities performed to gain spiritual force. Prabhupada says of these yogis, he says most of these yogis are bogus, but some are the real thing, a few hundred years old. He says, and still appear young and fresh. They gather at the Mela, then return to their seclusion, living with tigers in the mountain jungles. If you make eye contact with one of these guys, these 1,000-yard stairs, it almost blows you backwards. Some guys are standing on one leg, the other, after years of performing this austerity, is a shrunken appendage of bone and skin. But we are subdued by it all, too respectful. We are getting it. Prabhupada has taught us that one has to perform many austerities in order to develop yogic powers. But for what? Each yogi has a little pot by the road to collect a few paisa from people as they pass. They undergo so much hardships just to earn a little money. It is a business, Prabhupada said. Where's the bliss, the joy from all that austerity?
What was the last line?
Which one?
Oh, where is the bliss?
I've lost the page. Sorry. So it's interesting to note that the scriptures also say that within the body of a pure devotee, there are 8 mystic cities that they are present. But a pure devotee, he's actually reluctant to use these cities because from these cities one can become very proud, and also it's sure that you can attract people for the wrong reason. So because the pure devotee is only interested in loving Krishna and teaching others how to love Krishna and to depend fully on Krishna in all circumstances. So this pastime has probably been mentioned many times, but I'm going to mention it again. When Prabhupada was asked to perform a miracle, he gestured to his disciples and he said, "This is my miracle. These people, they perform so many sinful activities, but now they've given up all these bad habits and they're following the devotional path. So this is my miracle." So one of the powers of a pure devotee is that he can transfer a holy place of he can go to a place of pilgrimage, and he can purify this place of pilgrimage of the sinful reactions that are left from people who visit that place. So to back up this point, we can go to the ninth canto, 9th chapter of the Bhagavatam, and this is a conversation between Mother Ganges, Ganga Devi, and King Bhagirath. So King Bhagirath, he wanted to bring Mother Ganges to earth to deliver his ancestors who had been burnt to ashes due to their offences to a great sage. So this is the conversation. "I am very much satisfied by your austerities," this is Ganga Devi speaking, "and am now prepared to give you benedictions as you desire." Being thus addressed by Ganga Devi, Mother Ganges, the king bowed his head before her and explained his desire. Mother Ganges replied, "When I fall from the sky to the surface of the planet Earth, the water will certainly be very forceful. Who will sustain that force? If I am not sustained, I shall pierce the surface of the earth and go down to Rasatala, the Putala area of the universe. O king, I do not wish to go down to the planet Earth, for there the people in general will bathe in my waters to cleanse themselves of the reactions of their sinful deeds. When all these sinful reactions accumulate in me, how shall I become free from them? You must consider this very carefully." Bhagirath said, "Those who are saintly because of devotional service and are therefore in the renounced order, free from material desires, and who are pure devotees, expert in following the regulative principles mentioned in the Vedas, are always glorious and pure in behavior, and are able to deliver all fallen souls. When such pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions accumulated from other people will certainly be counteracted, for such devotees always keep in the core of their hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can vanquish all sinful reactions." So a pure devotee is also considered a place of pilgrimage himself. We read in the first canto, in the chapter titled Dhritarashtra Quits Home, where when Vidura returns to Hastinapur after being on pilgrimage, Yudhishthira Maharaj speaks a very beautiful verse where he says to Vidura, he says, "Persons like yourselves are like places of pilgrimage because you carry the Supreme Personality of Godhead within your heart. So wherever you go, you make that place into a place of pilgrimage." So the scriptures also tell us that when we visit holy places of pilgrimage, we shouldn't go there just to take bath or to visit temples, but the real purpose of going to a holy place is to take the association of the great saints that live there and to hear from them, to follow their instructions and to apply them in our lives as well. So then we can prepare ourselves for going back to Godhead. The Bhagavatam says that the Lord's presence is perceived in his pure devotees and manifested like electricity is in a bulb. A pure devotee always feels the presence of the Lord everywhere and sees the Lord in everything. So Krishna, he's also the property of his pure devotees. In the Nectar of Devotion, in the first chapter, the characteristics of pure devotional services, they're described. And one of the characteristics, there's 6 characteristics, and one of them is that pure devotional service is rarely achieved. So to get pure devotional service, one has to constantly endeavor for it. And it has to constantly endeavor for perfection. And the second consideration is to get Krishna's mercy. When the Lord sees the effort of a devotee and sees the endeavors he's putting into pleasing the Lord on a constant basis and is free from offenses, that's a big one, and being a servant of the servant, and free from false prestige, like lust, greed, and anger. And then there's also the very subtle qualities of name, fame, adoration, and its distinction. And so then the Lord will bestow his mercy. Another power of a pure devotee is that he's able to give Krishna to others. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings in his prayer of Vaishnav Thakur. He says, Krishna se tamara, Krishna dita para, tomara shakati ache, ame to kangala, Krishna Krishna bole, daitava pache bache. Krishna is yours. You have the power to give him to me. I am simply running behind you shouting Krishna Krishna. So in the purport from the verses today, it says that Srila Prabhupada says that skyscrapers, they're not a new thing that are just invented, but millions of years ago these things existed. So we are seeing how advanced the Vedic civilization was. This is the science of the Vedas, is coming from the Lord itself, and the science of architecture was called Sthapatya. And it comes from the Sthapatya Veda. And so Sthapatya Veda is a knowledge that establishes everything in the most orderly way so that everything is nourished by everything else. Sthapatya Veda takes advantage of the most fundamental laws of nature that promote perfect health, happiness, and prosperity. It uses precise mathematical formulas, equations, and proportions to design homes in perfect harmony with nature's laws. So I guess tomorrow you'll probably hear more of this because I think Shastra Prabhu is giving class and this is his expertise. So, and then we also read in the Mahabharata when the Pandavas were exiled to Kandavaprastha from Hastinapura by Dhritarashtra. So Kandavaprastha was not a very nice piece of land. It was arid, it was dry, it was very stony. So the Pandavas, with the help of Lord Krishna, they invited Vishvakarma, who's the architect of the demigods, and he came to Kandavaprastha, and he made the most beautiful city and the most beautiful palace for the Pandavas. It was so beautiful that it was called Indraprastha, which means like heaven. What's it called? Oh, heaven on earth, that's right. And so there's many Vedic sciences, and they're all very advanced and perfect because they're coming from Krishna. So we've also got Ayurveda, which everyone has heard of Ayurveda. So, and that comes from Lord Dhanvantari, who's an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second canto, in the 7th chapter, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, as stated in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, everything emanates from the ultimate source of the personality of Godhead. It is therefore understood in this verse that medical science, our knowledge in medicine, was also inaugurated by the personality of Godhead in his incarnation Dhanvantari. And thus the knowledge is recorded in the Vedas. The Vedas are the source of all knowledge, and this knowledge in medical science is also there. For the perfect cure of the diseases of the living entity, the embodied living entity is diseased by the very construction of his body. The body is a symbol of disease. The disease may differ from one variety to another, but disease must be there. Just as there is birth and death for everyone, so by the grace of the personality of Godhead, not only the diseases of the body and mind can be cured, but the soul is relieved from the constant repetition of birth and death. And then we have the military science, which is called Dana Veda. So from the Mahabharata, we learn that there's many weapons, and there's also the divine weapons as well that were available to very qualified people like Arjuna. And then we hear about the Brahmastra, and these weapons they were controlled by sound, and they were very exact, just like Ashwatthama. When he was followed by the Pandavas to deal with him, he threw the Brahmastra weapon, and this Brahmastra he threw it at Uttara to kill the child within the womb because he wanted to destroy the dynasty of the Pandavas. But of course, the Lord he entered the womb and he saved Maharaj Parikshit. So these weapons are not like today's weapons where they just go and it's just they call it collateral damage, where they just kill every man, woman, and child, and it doesn't matter, it's just what they do. But the Vedic science and these martial science, it was followed by people, and they were very cultural and not like today. And also the kings in Vedic civilization, they were well versed in the scriptures, and they were guided by the Brahmins. They were known as Raja Rishis, and they upheld the law and order, and they dealt with miscreants, so people were very safe and happy. And we see where Parikshit Maharaj, when he's touring his kingdom, and he sees Kali beating the leg of the bull, and he's very angry, and he deals with him, and he's prepared to kill him as well. Like, how dare you do this? Just because the Pandavas aren't present, I'm here and I'm going to deal with you. So they were very much protected the people, and the people were very happy, and people were very religious. And then, of course, the biggest aspect of the Vedic culture and the Vedic civilization is the spiritual knowledge. So from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's the cream of the Vedas, and it's called the ripe and most relishable fruit. So in the second verse of the first chapter of the Bhagavatam, there's a very nice verse, Dhamma Projita Kaitava Atra Parama Nimatsaranam Satam, that this Bhagavad Purana, it propounds the highest truth, which is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. So the Bhagavatam, it doesn't beat around the bush, but it tells us straight that we're not this body, we're eternal servants of the Lord. We can love the Lord, and we can go back to Godhead. We can have a personal relationship with the Lord, and it tells us what we need to do to achieve the goal. So then, the final point I want to mention is in today's verse. It talks about. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted sweet humming bees. So the bees, we hear about that. There was quite a bit in the Vedic scriptures. So a devotee is compared to a bee because a bee is only interested in nectar. So a devotee is only interested in Krishna and topics relating to Krishna, whereas a materialist is interested in mundane topics and topics not about Krishna. So a materialist is compared to the flies. So in the third canto of the Bhagavatam, in chapter 28, there's a description of the Supreme Lord. It says he wears around his neck a garland of attractive sylvan flowers, and a swarm of bees, intoxicated by its delicious fragrance, hums about the garland. And of course, we know there's that pastime of Radharani with the bumblebee, the honeybee. And then also there's a very beautiful bhajan written by Srila Rupa Goswami, and where he mentions the bee. And this is called Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. So Rupa Goswami, he prays, Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande, Man Manasa Madhakaram Apaya Nijapada Pankaja Makarande. And he makes reference to the bee, and he says, O Lord Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you. Please fix my bee-like mind in the nectar of your lotus feet. And in the third verse of that beautiful bhajan, he says, O Sanatan. So Sanatan is his elder brother, and also he looks on him like his spiritual master. Your lotus feet surpass the nectar of gods. Finding in this lotus flower of your lotus feet the essence of sweetness, which is endowed with truly wonderful mellows. I pray that today the bee of my mind may eternally reside there. So that's the end of the class. Would anyone like to make any comments or questions?
Thank you, Srimati, for the lovely class. It's really interesting in that verse where it's so specific. It talks about 7 stories.
Yes.
This doesn't say multiple stories or many stories, but 7. That's how precise Bhagavatam is. It's really amazing. I just wanted to ask you, when you were talking about the different cities, did you mention one that you can enter a person's mind?
Yes.
I hadn't heard of that city before. That should be good.
That is.
My father did it. He moved someone's mind.
Really?
Yeah, he moved it. Yes, mine.
Oh yeah. That one's called Prapti City. Yeah, and that one. Well, this I got from Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, and so I just copied what he said. And he says, yeah, by using this perfection, one can also enter into the senses of others through the predominating deities of the senses, and thus enjoy anything they can enjoy, hearing what they talk, understanding what they are thinking, so he can enter their bodies with the Prapti Siddhi.
So I didn't think of my father as a mystic or anything. It was when I'd separated, I wasn't living at home anymore, but he was selling his property and he went to some course to learn how to go into the mind, and when he sold his property for a good price, there was someone interested and he went and told them internally that they should buy the property. And then there was some more to the story. My grandfather, his father, had a cyst. So he went into his body, he told me this, and twisted the cyst off. But then my father actually died of a brain tumour, so someone else told me that he didn't cleanse himself properly when he did that. So there is courses you can do to learn how to do this. I don't remember the course he did or know much, but he did share those things with me, that he can learn these mystics.
That's interesting.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So, yes, thank you for a very nice class, Srimati. Just a quick comment, you're speaking about all the technological advances and, especially to do with the medicine and the hospitals and AI. So, really from, going back decades ago, our leading scientists in the Hare Krishna movement, so, specifically I'm referring to Sarvabhuta Prabhu and Rutakarma and so forth, they got onto this straight away, and they knew, and they had published that the main principle, regardless of how far technology can be advanced, because I think one of the comments you made was that, okay, they have designed a robot that can just act like a human being. But the principle that they will never be able to emulate is consciousness.
Yes.
You know, that is, and you know, so it doesn't matter how sophisticated they make these things, because they will never be able to fabricate consciousness, they will never be able to actually deal with personal issues, you know, in the way that a person does. So that was just one comment.
Yes.
Yeah. And I also have another question. Or did you want to respond?
No?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Just one question. So a little bit earlier in your class, you made the comment that generally yogis are materially conditioned. And also just your use of the word yogi, you know, it's quite broad, because devotees, Vaishnava devotees, we are bhakti yogis. So I was just wondering if you could comment on that, you know, the yogi part of bhakti yogi, you know, in relation to how you were discussing the general concept of yogi.
Well, I guess you have the yogis who meditate, and they may be meditating on the impersonal Brahman, and then you have the bhakti yogi who performs devotional service, performs austerities, but it's all for the pleasure of Krishna. So there's a big difference. I'd like to put it over to more of the learned devotees. Would anyone like to say something? Oh, you would know the answer yourself. I'll pass it over to you.
The only thing I can think of is the verse in the Chaitanya Chandrita where it says Krishna Bhakti Niskala Ateva Shanta Bhakti Mukti Siddhikami Sakya Shanta. So it's making a distinction between the two. The Krishna, the devotee of Krishna Bhakti has no material desires, therefore it's peaceful. Whereas those who are aspiring for mystic cities, the bhaktis, the muktis, the cities, and the karmis, you know, so the bhaktis, those who are after sense gratification, the muktis, those who are after liberation, the cities, are those who are after the materialistic perfections. Is karma, they're all lusty, therefore they can never be peaceful. That's the only distinction I can make.
Okay, so thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.